The K-shaped economy is splitting our world in two, where the top grows richer through AI, markets, and assets, while the bottom struggles with debt, lost jobs, and inflation. History shows this divide always sparks revolutions. The question, which side will rewrite the future? What if the real revolution isn't storming the gates, but the slow collapse of trust in money, work, and institutions? We live in the age of the K-shaped economy, where one branch of the K rises toward infinite wealth, while the other slides downward into debt, job loss, and despair. At the top are the asset holders, tech founders, Wall Street traders, AI winners. Nvidia alone added more than $1 trillion in market cap in under a year. The wealthy who own these assets ride the rocket ship. At the bottom are workers facing stagnant wages, rents eating 40% of income, and jobs automated out of existence. Inflation quietly erodes every paycheck, turning middle-class dreams into survival struggles. This divide isn't just about inequality, it's about trust. When people feel the system only works for the few, faith in money, banks, and governments starts to crumble. History shows what comes next. Every time wealth gaps widen to breaking point, revolutions follow. In France, bread cost 88% of a worker's wage before the storming of the Bastille. In Russia, the Tsar's elite controlled land while peasants starved until 1917 snapped the system. Today's bread price may not be wheat, it's rent, energy, and access to digital opportunity. And in this distrust, alternatives rise. Radical politics, populist movements, and new forms of money like Bitcoin. So the question is not if the divide will spark change, but whether we're heading for evolution or revolution. The K-shaped economy, explained. Economists call it the K-shaped recovery, two lines moving in opposite directions. One climbs higher with every crisis, the other sinks deeper. And that divergence defines modern history. Take the 2008 financial crisis. Wall Street banks collapsed, the Fed printed trillions, and ordinary families lost 8 million jobs and nearly $19 trillion in household wealth. Yet within 5 years, stock markets roared back. By 2013, the S&P 500 had doubled from its lows, but the median U.S. household's income was still lower than it had been in 2007. Wall Street healed, Main Street never did. The numbers today are even starker. The top 10% of Americans now own about 89% of all stocks, while the bottom 50% hold barely 1%. Think about that, half the country shares the scraps of the market. Meanwhile, AI-driven giants like Nvidia, Oracle, and Tesla have created trillions in new wealth almost overnight. The winners at the top of the K are celebrating record profits and stock highs. But on the lower branch, wages adjusted for inflation have barely budged in 40 years. Housing affordability is at its worst since 1989. Over 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, while credit card debt just passed $1.3 trillion, the highest in history. And this isn't just economics, it's politics. When one side of society climbs while the other feels trapped, anger builds. History tells us that revolutions often begin not with famine alone, but with the sight of neighbors feasting while you starve. That imbalance is exactly why the K-shape is more than a chart, it's a fuse. The fourth turning and loss of trust. Historians William Strauss and Neil Howe argued that societies move in cycles of roughly 80 to 100 years. Each cycle ends with a fourth turning, a period of upheaval where old institutions collapse and new ones are born. The last one? The Great Depression, followed by World War II. Before that, the American Civil War. And before that, the American Revolution. Every fourth turning ends in transformation. Now look at today. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index, which tracks how optimistic or pessimistic people feel, has fallen to levels seen only 5 times in modern history. During the Great Depression, the 1970s stagflation, the 2008 crash, the 2022 inflation shock, and right now. Yet here's the paradox. Even as optimism sinks, the stock market sits at record highs. That disconnect screams of deep distrust, and distrust is everywhere. In 1964, 77% of Americans trusted the federal government to do what was right. By 2023, that number collapsed to just 16%. Surveys show more than half of people don't trust banks, employers, or even the dollar itself. Scandals like Enron, the 2008 bailouts, and the endless printing of money only add fuel. In past fourth turnings, the breaking point came when people stopped believing in the old system. Today, that disbelief is spreading fast. From meme stock rebellions on Reddit to Bitcoin adoption in countries like El Salvador, the message is clear. People are searching for trust outside the establishment. When trust erodes, history teaches us, revolutions aren't far behind. AI as the engine of inequality and abundance. Artificial intelligence has already minted trillion-dollar giants. Nvidia, the chip maker once known mainly to gamers, is now worth more than $3 trillion, briefly overtaking Apple in 2024. Oracle, dismissed by Wall Street for decades, quietly landed $300 billion in new AI-related orders in a single quarter. Tesla isn't just about cars anymore. It's about humanoids and energy systems powered by machine learning. These are the winners at the top of the K. But on the other side, the losers are piling up. McKinsey estimates that 30% of US jobs could be automated by 2030. In customer service, AI bots are already replacing call centers in the Philippines, an industry that once employed 1.3 million people. White-collar work isn't safe either. Goldman Sachs predicts 300 million jobs globally are exposed to AI disruption. This isn't the first time technology has sparked such a divide. Think back to the Napster scandal of 1999. Music executives called it theft, but for millions of listeners, it was a revolution. Songs that once cost $20 for a CD were suddenly free. Entire industries collapsed. Tower Records filed for bankruptcy in 2004, while Apple's iTunes and later Spotify reshaped the music economy. AI takes that Napster moment and supercharges it. It won't just replicate songs, it can replicate legal documents, medical diagnoses, even buildings. Imagine the value of a $30 million mansion when humanoids can construct a copy for $300,000. That's not inflation. That's deflation by disruption. Abundance for some, extinction for others. That's the paradox of AI, and the reason the K-shaped divide is accelerating. Bitcoin as the trustless escape hatch. Bitcoin didn't come out of nowhere. It was born in 2009 during the wreckage of the 2008 financial crisis. While Lehman Brothers collapsed and governments printed trillions to bail out banks, a mysterious figure named Satoshi Nakamoto launched a monetary experiment. The very first Bitcoin block carried a hidden message. Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. It wasn't just code, it was rebellion. Fast forward. Today, Bitcoin has a market cap north of $1 trillion, larger than most national currencies. In countries like Argentina, where inflation soared past 200% in 2023, families buy Bitcoin and stablecoins just to protect their salaries from evaporating overnight. In Nigeria, nearly 50% of young adults have used crypto, not for speculation, but as survival against a collapsing Naira and capital controls. The psychology is simple. When trust in the system dies, people search for money outside the system. In the Weimar Republic of 1923, citizens needed a wheelbarrow of marks to buy bread. In Venezuela, by 2019, $1 was worth 3.5 million bolivars. In both cases, money failed. And when money fails, revolutions soon follow. Bitcoin offers no central bank, no Jerome Powell, no government decree, just a fixed supply. 21 million coins, ever. That scarcity isn't just math, it's identity. Holders call themselves HO dealers, a tribe defined not by status but by shared distrust of fiat. Whether inequality widens or governments crumble, Bitcoin thrives in chaos. It is both lifeboat and weapon in an age of collapsing trust, revolution or reset. When bread in Paris cost 88% of a worker's wage in 1789, people didn't argue about inflation. They stormed the Bastille. The French Revolution wasn't sparked by political theory. It was the simple math of hunger. Centuries later, the same pattern repeated in Russia. By 1917, Moscow's food prices were up 400%, soldiers deserted, and the Tsar fell. Fast forward. In Sri Lanka, 2022, fertilizer bans and debt defaults triggered food and fuel shortages. Protesters didn't just chant, they stormed the president's mansion and swam in his pool. In Egypt during the Arab Spring, bread riots escalated into regime change. Every time inequality plus scarcity hit a boiling point, governments crumble. Today, the bread isn't baguettes. It's energy, credit, and housing. In Germany, household energy bills doubled after Russian gas was cut. In the US, median home prices are now over 5 times median income, compared to just 2 times in 1970. For millions, the American dream is mathematically out of reach. Here's the twist. Revolutions don't always mean guillotines. Sometimes they're resets, like FDR's New Deal in the 1930s, which created Social Security and banking reforms. But resets only work if the top compromises. If not, the jaws of the K-shaped economy snap shut by force, not policy. The open question now. Will today's elites engineer a reset that lifts the bottom half, or will history repeat and the crowd drag the top down with them? The new age of speed. Economic cycles used to crawl. The Great Depression dragged for 10 years. Japan's lost decade of the 1990s stretched to nearly 20 years. But now, markets move like lightning. In March 2020, global stocks fell 34% in 33 days, the fastest collapse in modern history. Within 6 months, the S&P 500 had fully recovered. AI, social media, and decentralized finance have compressed time. Retail traders on Reddit moved $30 billion into GameStop in a week. Bitcoin went from $3,800 to $69,000 in just 20 months. Nvidia's stock tripled in 2023 alone, adding more market cap in 1 year than ExxonMobil created in a century. These are not normal cycles, they're breakneck surges. Speed doesn't just change investing, it rewires society. Revolutions that once brewed over decades now ignite overnight. In Tunisia, 2010, one fruit vendor's self-immolation sparked protests that toppled governments across the Arab world in months. In Canada, 2022, trucker blockades mobilized funding and logistics through Bitcoin in days, outpacing government responses. The frictionless flow of capital, memes, and code means adaptation is survival. Old-school hedge funds debate policy mistakes while a 19-year-old on Binance flips tokens in real time. One plays chess by mail, the other on Blitz. Guess who wins? Revolutions used to take decades to spread. With AI agents trading, organizing, even thinking faster than humans, the next turning may unfold in months. The question hanging over us all, are we prepared for a world where trust collapses at the speed of Wi-Fi? Thanks for joining us on this journey through the K-shaped economy and its revolutionary echoes. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Dive into our other videos for more untold stories that connect history, money, and the future we're building together.